Welcome to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life radio hour and podcast. I'm your host, Life Coach Myrna Young, and sitting in the guest chair is a return guest. Love that. I think he's like the first one that I've had, other than a series that I've had come back, over a year or so. So let's welcome Thane Marcus Ringler. Welcome.
Thank you, Myrna. It's fun. What an honor to be the first repeat guest. I
Yeah,
feel
I
very
know.
privileged. So it's fun to be here and
Yes.
sharing another conversation with you on your lovely show.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the last time Tane was on, he talked about from here to there. And it was really a good topic. The radio station liked it. They played it several times. So very good. Okay, well, today we are going to be talking about intention in the tension. So we all know that there's a lot of tension right now in the world. We can't even just say America. It's in the world because of what's the pandemic. There's a lot of uncertainty that's going around. Even me,
Hmm.
I've actually changed. If somebody stops me on the road and wants to say hi, I'm a very friendly person. All I'm thinking of, they're talking. Are they going to send anything to me? It's a really crazy world. And I'm thinking, I see these large groups and I'm thinking, am I ever going to be comfortable again at a concert or, on a parade with thousands of people? We're all our consciousness is going to be changed. So this is a good topic to talk about. How do you traverse that? What is that? Definitely your intention, because we shouldn't always just react. We should have some intention. And like I said, Thane is very good with that. I'll tell you a bit more about him in a minute. But one of the things I also want to mention that intentional living is, what some people are doing. And like I said, this is going to be our topic today. But when I was researching this topic, I found that there's some people that are called minimalists. And what minimalists do for intentional living is they intentionally live with few possessions, right? And they do that because intentional living with only the items that support your purpose is um, uh, is one of the ways to do it. So minimalists are saying that we don't need all this stuff, we don't need all this junk, right? And we're going to be living intentionally. It made me remember or think about the tiny homes kind of you know type of movement. But anyway, all right. So that's going to be your topic today. Let me give you some more information on Thane Marcus Ringler, a former professional golfer turned speaker, writer, and development coach, living in Denver, Colorado with his wife, Evan. In his current work, Thane's mission is to help others live and work better. He's passionate about speaking to the journey from the journey and is striving to empower this generation to take ownership of their lives and never settle for less than they're capable of. Thane is the host of the Up and Comers Show, a podcast all about the process of becoming and living with intentionality while sharing stories from other inspiring up and comers along the way. To find out more about Thane and his work, visit him on the web at thanemarcus.com, and we'll talk about that later in the show. All right, but I'm going to digress a little bit from the or normal start because I love your podcast, the Up and Comers Show. So the first question I have here for you is, I love stories. Stories is a good way to teach. And you said you do stories of living intentionally. I'm pretty sure you know about the American Life podcast, right? They become like the first popular podcast. Are you following that kind of format where you pick a story and you talk about it? Tell us about your Up and Comers podcast.
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's been a really fun journey of about 4 years now. And obviously, when you do something for at least that length of time, it changes a lot as you do it. It kind of shifts and iterates into different forms. But ultimately, it was mirrored off of similar shows like the Tim Ferriss show or even the Joe Rogan experience, in that they're long form interviews that are more of a dance than a system or a rubric. And they allow with the length of time being, on average with interviews around 90 minutes, it allows someone's story to really be told, along with them conveying pertinent topics that, we're facing in our country or in our lives in a way that people can relate much easier than sound bites in that sense. When you get to hear someone's story, you get to hear that they're a real human being and that they have a background and that they have a journey that they're on and that they've had challenges they've faced and they've messed up at times and they've succeeded at times. And when you hear that whole picture in a little bit more of a longer form, then it allows you to hear what they have to say about specific topics more in a more understanding way, a more empathetic way that's a lot more approachable than just someone telling you this 1 minute soundbite that will try to convince you of something with you have no context of who they are and where they come from as a person. So that's kind of the purpose of the show in that format. And really it is geared towards people that are living intentionally, like you said, because I think a big difference between intentional living and maybe normal living is similar to, when you have someone working on the body, like a doctor or practitioner. I faced an injury in my golf career, as I think we talked about a little bit last time. And when I was trying to solve the injury on my body, when I saw a lot of different types of doctors or people that were in the physical or body space, there was a big difference between people who are prescriptive and people who are intuitive. So the prescriptive practitioners would already have their system that they apply to my body, regardless of what they're seeing or feeling. Then the intuitive practitioner would come and just ask questions and seek to understand before they started applying practices to it. Right. And there's a big difference because one's going to get more to the core of the root going on versus just the symptoms. And such is true in life. There's people that have their lens, their perspective they put on and prescribe onto everything. And that's their kind of circular pattern. And then there's other people that come and try to seek to understand, seek to learn throughout their lives, seek to live with a greater reason beyond themselves. And that's a constant journey. And those are the types of people that I like diving into their stories in. And I think we share that for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Yes. I love that. I love diving into it. I'm a reader. I listen to podcasts and audiobooks every morning when I walk. And yeah, I love hearing what we can do living intentionally, whether it's intentional to serve, intentionally for personal growth, which is basically my intention, learning something every day, and not to be reactive, like living intentionally. So that's great. So you do the long form interview, huh?
Yeah,
I do. Yeah. I can't do that because my radio show is only an hour. But I see a lot of people that don't have radio shows, they would go for sometimes an hour and a half, 2 hours, because a podcast, you can make it as long as you want. And I do believe that, storytelling is very important. For the last couple of episodes of my show, I stopped asking the person the question, tell me of your journey. And I noticed that the last time that I did that, I didn't connect to my guest. I know you already, so we've got a little connection already, but I didn't connect to her because I thought, what happens when I have an hour, people spend like 20 minutes telling their story.
Totally.
And then, we, and the interview is not even an hour. The interview is, a lot less than that. Then we actually don't get the content, so, and that's why I started it that way with you today. Again, not necessarily getting your story, but yeah, people need to connect to the story. People that are listening needs to understand your journey. So, following that, maybe for the new listeners. So can you tell us a little bit, not 20 minutes, but a little bit of your journey and your story. And, I know you started off as a pro golfer and you become a coach, and yeah, fill me in.
Yeah, well, I love that because everyone's story is unique and everyone does have a story to tell. And I think those are really fun to hear from other people. Mine, I grew up in Kansas, central heartland of America, and ended up going to California for college, spent about 10 years out there in LA. So vastly different cultures, just socially, and interacted with a lot of different peoples within that. I did play golf my whole life, was an athlete and competitor. As you mentioned, I ended up getting to play about 4 years professionally. That was a really neat journey. I felt very blessed to have that opportunity. In the second half of my career, that I faced that injury that repeated about 5 times over a year and a half. That sidelined me for a lot of it and was very frustrating, but also diversified my interests. And during that time, I started the podcast with a buddy of mine, and then I started on my journey of writing by the book that we talked about last time, From Here to There, was my first book, and that was really about what the experience of playing golf my whole life and at a high level taught me about how to pursue excellence in any field. And then from that, I kind of went on building a speaking career and pursuing more opportunities as a speaker. And that was a really neat adventure, and it still is. And then this coaching practice has kind of been the main focus outside of professional golf for the last 3 years, is working with individuals on personal and professional development. And a lot of times that involves 3 types of people: people who are stuck and want to get unstuck, people that are transitioning or starting something on the side and want help with just the right path to follow, or even the feedback that they need to hear on how they can develop to set themselves up for success in that. And then finally, people that just want to level up in their work or in their lives and need some extra accountability and objectivity to do that. And that's been a really fulfilling process of, less focus on myself, which golf was, and more focus on other people,
On other people. Yeah.
which is just really a lot more fulfilling. And then most recently this year, I got married at the start of COVID and moved to Denver, where my wife and I now live. And that's been a really sweet transition, even though so much change is going on in our world. We've definitely experienced a lot of that, even personally. And this fall, I'm really excited. In November here, the 2 online courses I've been building are going to be finally releasing, and that's been the next chapter that I'm really excited about. But a lot of work has gone into getting those ready.
Yeah, very good. Yes, very good. So one of the things that we touched on the last time is that as a professional athlete, you built up a lot of skills as far as, accountability and focus and dedication and practice, all the things that goes into becoming the best in order to get onto the pro circuit, as a golfer. And one of the things about golfing that a lot of people like is that you're always playing against yourself. Even though you have competition, you're playing against yourself. So it's when you go out there and you do better, it's better than what you did yesterday, kind of thing. So it's on that same journey. So awesome. I love your synopsis of coaching and what coaches do to help people in the 3 levels or the 3 areas that people want help with. So that's great. And one of the most fulfilling parts of being a coach is service. Service always comes with some rewards, but when you help somebody to, like you said, level up or or to take their life to a different level, it's always great that you were instrumental in helping them to get there. So awesome. So let's start with our topic and intention. So how does the power of intention help when you're stuck, afraid, alone, like many of us during this pandemic? So one of the areas that you mentioned that you coach in is in the stuck area.
Yeah.
And I would probably think that most of the people that are coming into the life coaching conversation is stuck in somewhere. Right.
Well, as humans, we all are to some extent, right? We're constantly either stuck in a circular movement. Usually that means digressing or decaying in some way, or we're growing, we're moving forward. And there's really no in between. There's no sitting on the fence in the middle of those 2 sides, at least not for very long. And I like to think about as humans, I think our natural default, if we don't make a choice, is to go down the path of least resistance.
Yeah.
And so if we don't choose, we're going to be going
Actually,
downstream.
our brains are designed that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, in order to go upstream, or the path of most resistance, we have to have effort and intention. which is ultimately discipline, right? Discipline is effort and intention. It's saying, hey, I'm going to choose to go upstream, and then I'm going to put forth the effort to do so by rowing or whatever, the illustration has. So,
Right.
and I think in this time of COVID, I think the first thing that we all would do well in doing is just sitting with ourselves and our current place in life and in the world, just to recognize where we're at and to show grace and kindness to ourselves. I think we often beat ourselves up about not being where we want to be, not using the time as best as we could, not owning the moment or whatever it may be. But a lot of times there's moments where we need to grieve, or we need to sit with the sorrow, or we need to sit with the change and discomfort and really be present in that moment in order to move through it versus just move around it, but not really reconcile with it. And so I think counter to what a lot of Western culture of just go, 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 we often stop and sit and reflect and be present with ourselves is a great way to show ourselves kindness. Because if you can't show yourself grace in the moments that are hard, then you're going to end up beating yourself. And this is what I did in golf. You beat yourself up to where it actually limits and hurts your performance. And in golf, I struggled with this idea that in practicing, right, there's a practice mentality and performance mentality. And I think this would be helpful for what we're talking about here. The practice mentality is saying, hey, I'm going to hold myself to a higher standard than I think I can achieve, because that'll push me within the practice. And it's okay to fail in practice because there's no consequences, but I'm going to try to reach a level that I don't even think I can reach. And that's good for training, right?
Yeah, right.
But when we come to in performance, if we maintain that mindset and we keep failing to reach that super high level, we start beating ourselves up like, oh, you suck, you aren't good enough, you're never going to get there, you're never going to perform how you should, when really that's a level that we shouldn't expect. So in practice, it's holding yourself to a higher level. In performance, it's showing yourself kindness and grace. And this shift is tough because in performance, if I hit a bad shot in a golf round and I'm saying, okay, I didn't reach that level, I need to keep hitting this super high level, instead of saying, okay, I hit a bad shot. Everyone hits bad shots. That's a part of golf. That's a part of life. Now I get to hit a better shot or have more creativity or have more fun with it. It's a whole different mindset that allows us to embrace our mistakes along the way that we're going to make and be free to use those opportunities, not setbacks, opportunities for more growth, more creativity, more ingenuity, and more differences in our path than we would have expected. And those are all blessings if we reframe our perspective.
Yeah, that's hard to do though. That's very hard to do because one, as Tony Robbins says, people move towards pleasure and away from pain. So whenever they're feeling uncomfortable or they failed, or like you said, sit in the sorrow, a lot of people are not sitting in the sorrow. They actually want to mask that sorrow. They want to mask the sorrow by drinking. They want to mask the sorrow by doing something to not feel it. So a lot of people don't want to feel. And the negative self-talk, which is another word for saying what you're talking about, the negative self-talk, yeah, you should have had that shot. You suck. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I understand basically what you're saying, but I like what, where you're saying that give somebody kind and, give yourself some grace and some kindness. But that's where like a coach will come in or like a family member will come in, whenever you beat yourself up, they turn and they say, hey, but you're good at this, and you're good at that. And unless you're living at a higher level of consciousness, a lot of times you're not going to be able to say that to yourself. You've got to be in a certain level of consciousness. Other than that, you've got to, wait for somebody to point it out. Hey, sure, I hit a bad shot, but if I keep practicing, maybe I'll get it. Something like that.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a great point in that, what we're kind of speaking about is self-awareness a lot of times, right? Having a self-awareness to know what we need ourselves, right? And that means we need to understand ourselves. And I think the three primary tools of self-awareness are journaling and reflecting, which is just sitting with a pen and paper and just sitting there and, looking back on a situation or a day or a moment or our lives and understanding it more clearly. The other two are feedback, like you're talking about, having a person in your life, whether coach, mentor, family member, a close confidant who can help you see more objectively, because we are inherently subjective.
Right.
And then the
Right.
third is meditation, right? Of just being able to sit in the present moment and remove the distractions that cloud our vision. And by using those three primary tools, we get way better at seeing ourselves clearly so that we can steer ourselves better, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So yeah, self-awareness, consciousness. Yeah. So that's really great. Um, and meditation is actually pretty good too. I do that. Up to this morning, I was meditating on a memory and I recognized my error in it. And I immediately, called and apologized and say, hey, you know what? You were the trigger. You made me do that.
Mm.
But I'm taking full responsibility. You know what I mean? But so that's great. Self-awareness and meditation. That's awesome. All right. So, what does it mean, which is our topic today? What does it mean to live with intention in detention? So I know that we touched in a few items already, but let's go a little deeper. And before you answer, again, when I researched, intentions, what came up other than Justin Bieber's song Intentions?
That's good.
You like that, right? Yes. And, he's talking about shower you with my attention. Yeah, these are my only intentions. So, we're talking about yeah, so let's dive in and talk about these intentions and attentions and tensions. There's like the three words here.
We need to call in, get just Jay Beebs on the phone to answer this one
That's
for
right.
us. I love it. No,
You can fill in.
yeah. The intentions, intention is really a reason why behind what we do. So living with intentionality is just infusing why, a reason, purpose into our daily lives, our daily thoughts, our daily actions. Again, it doesn't happen by chance. We don't default into this. We have to choose it. And so a lot of it really revolves around purpose and identity. And the whole phrase intention in the tension, my co-founder of the podcast, Adam Setzer, came up with. And I think it's just a catchy way to show that in life, we face tensions. We all know this very well right now, right?
Yeah.
There's people that are on the one side of the tension of always wear masks. People are like, no, don't ever wear masks. And we're
I
like,
don't
okay,
understand
what
that
is
part,
it?
but
Yeah. And everyone's at a different place on that, right? And then
right.
and then on the presidential campaign, there's like people on this side and that side and every
Well,
single
that
side,
makes
right?
more sense because
Yeah.
there's a lot of tension right there.
And so those
Yeah.
are just two of a myriad, and those are like the more permanent or pressing right now. But every
Right.
single day we have tensions that we face. Even like from exercise and recovery. Are we doing too much or too little? Are we not recovering enough? Or so there's so many tensions.
You have tension newly married in COVID.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah,
So,
right.
and the point of tensions isn't to pick a side and then just rest on that side. A lot of times in tensions, the best place to be is in the middle, in the gray, in the messy tension. By choosing a side, we eliminate the tension, but really that isn't the best place to be. The best place is to be in the middle, where we're living in the tension. We're having to infuse intention, a purpose, a reason why, so that we can be able to see both sides with some fairness, with some objectivity, without camping out and saying, okay, I've already made up my mind, I already know everything, and I've already arrived, which is never true for any of us in life. So a lot of it revolves around recognizing that there's tensions and then understanding our purpose and our identity as individuals and how we want to show up in the world, and then living attached and aligned with that daily, which is a practice.
All right. So we're gonna skip those two main topics there, like the mask and the presidential, because they say never to talk about politics and religion.
I love it.
So let's give an example of being in the middle in tension. So give me an example. You can probably pick one from either your, one of your stories on your show, or maybe a personal experience or a client or something. Give us an example of that.
Yeah, totally. So I think one that could be helpful is so relationally wise, right? Like if you have someone in your family or your spouse or a friend, right? And so you've got someone in your life that you have a relationship with. And there's a tension there, right? So there's something that you disagree on. Maybe it's a current topic, one of the affirmation ones. Maybe it's just like something that they do that is a mannerism that annoys you, right? Something like that. Could be anything, right? So you have this tension, and there's either the A, just ignore it, pretend like it doesn't exist, move on, get over it. B, engage, confront, and say you need to change or else, right? And that seems like it's A or B. There's two options, but usually it's in the middle, right? It's not this or that. It may be some of this in the right time or some of that in the right time. But usually the best option isn't saying it has to be this or it has to be this. It has to be I completely ignore and forget it, or it has to be I have to confront them right now on this because they can't act this way, or we can't have this between us. And I think that, again, that neither of those are right. It's not A or B. It's saying, hey, it's somewhere in the middle, and I need to discern based on our relationship, based on the situation or the moments in that we're in. When is the right time to bring up something, and how can I do it in a loving way? And I think the way that we do this well is by operating from a place of love and not fear, right? I think that's a really helpful starting point, saying, hey, if I'm operating from a place of fear, that's going to say that if I choose wrong, then my identity is at stake, or this person will hate me, or our relationship will be broken, or they're going to have control. Fear operates from a place of control and power, and us losing that or gaining that. Love says that this person is on an equal plane as me, right? I'm a Christian, so I like the way that God says it. But as you said, no religion and politics. But basically, all he says is that we're all equal. Every human being is created as an image, has divine worth and value. So it doesn't matter what you think. Every human being's on the same playing field, even though we attach all these things to it. And by seeing that and operating from that, we can say, okay, if they are just as worthy and valuable as I am, then I want to come from a place of love that sees them and recognizes them and seeks to understand them instead of have them adopt my viewpoints.
Right. Well, hey, relationships was an excellent one to pick as far as tension. There's a lot going on right now. Everybody is talking about the divorce rate has just shot up because people are forced to be together, and there's a lot of tension because there's no outlets. But I like what you said, and I'm a Christian too. And I was just reading this really fabulous book. You just finished it. Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. And one of the things I learned from that book is that he was talking about a story where he was in this monk, and monks are all service, and he's complaining to the senior monk that he's giving all this out and he's not getting anything back. And the monk says that a lot of times when you give out love, you don't get it back from the same people. Right. So, we're giving out love to, let's say, a spouse or children or something, and we're expecting it back. But love is, like Jesus says, love your enemy as your friend. And the foundation of the Bible is all love. And it's not necessary that you're going to love somebody that loves you. If you're loving your enemy, then obviously they don't love you back. So if you have the concept that you're going to love unconditionally, and maybe it's going to boomerang back to you, even if it's not from this person, but you're going to get it back somehow, that actually makes it easier. So when you're in this middle, right, as you're talking about, then you can actually, be in a better space to give and to love and to understand than just thinking about what you're not getting. Because that's normally what, about men, but women are always thinking about what they're not getting.
Well, I think that's human more than it's just men and women. And I think it's ability to hold space for yourself and for others, right? Holding space means like you're going to give a bear hug around this tension in the room and just hold it there, not try to remove the tension, but you're just holding it there because that that's a part of life. It's infused in life. And by eliminating it, we're actually hurting ourselves and others more than by embracing it and trying to hold space within it. But it's uncomfortable. I think that's why we stray away from it, because it's more uncomfortable. It's more challenging. and we have to be more conscious and present with it, which is always challenging. Like just because we talk about it doesn't mean we're any better at it than anyone else. We still have to work at it just like anyone.
You're talking to me. I definitely have to work on it too, especially when you and your spouse are at different levels, or whoever you're talking to is lived different levels. Me and you, because we're in this space, can probably have a much better marriage than for somebody that one person is a coach and one person have a higher level of consciousness and the other person is not there. You know what I mean? So that's great. Right. Yep. All right. So the other question I have here is, what do you think helps us live full of hope, especially in 2020? And that's also a great message. Hope is such a big word. I mean, it's just a small word that packs a lot of power. My message, the reason I do this show is to give hope. My book that I wrote, it's hope and encouragement. That was the subtitle of it. So yeah, tell us about hope in 2020 when, people are seeing what's in front of them and they're not looking past it.
Yeah, I think you make a great point there. Hope, as you mentioned, I believe it's readily available for anyone, anytime. And I think a lot of that's the fuel of hope comes from just reframing our perspective on things, right? Perspective is simply your view of a situation or an object or yourself. And guess what? That can be viewed from many different places, right? If you're in a room and you're seeing a picture, well, you go to the other side of the room, you'll see a different picture. It's a different thing, right? It's when you see it from different angles and views. And so hope in 2020, as you said, is something that more and more people are feeling hopeless, like it's not available, like it's not present, like we don't have any hope. And by pausing and reconsidering, saying, hey, how can we be hope-filled people that bring and generate more hope in the world? Well, I think it starts just by reframing our perspective and saying, in the book the book that I came out this year with is called Catalyst for Hope. And it's really just talking about 4 catalysts or 4 ways.
That's one of your books?
Yeah, it just launched this summer. And right now, I want to do a couple months of it being free on my website just to get it into more people's hands because it is a time that I think we need it. We really need hope. And this is just sharing 4 simple perspectives that I've found to unlock a lot of hope in my life. And we can always do this. And it's simple things like the fact that we're all in process, that we're not finished yet. That is something that has amazing hope in it, right? The fact that it's not over. We get to keep going forward. We get to keep moving. We still have a choice and a chance to live and breathe and do work in this world and be a part of the change we wish to see. That's amazing hope.
I just remember this. There's this quote that says, "It's not over till the fat lady sings." Yes. That's a big one. It might seem simple, but that's a big one. You're in process. It's not over. Yeah. Until you die, actually. Yeah.
A lot of times we feel like, oh, I'm a failure, or I'm this, or I'm that. Like we've reached a point of there's no further. But that's a lie. There may be like a dead end you reach, but you just go a few steps back and pick a new path, right? That's what I did with golf. I reached a dead end. It didn't work out how I thought, but then I just took a few steps back and picked a new direction and started moving forward again. And we all have the opportunity to do that.
You got from golf to in a different trajectory. Yep.
100%. And so, something as simple as that. And the other one is progress. The fact that progress happens, the way it happens is that it always happens by baby steps. We think it's some massive leap forward that we need to see, but it never happens that way. We don't jump to the 10th step. We go from the first step to the second step and then 9 more to get to the 10th. And that means that just because progress doesn't seem as big or as much as you want right now, the fact that we can still make a step forward is progress. And the fact that actually sustainable progress happens in baby steps and increments over a long period of time means that those steps you're taking today do matter actually more than we think they do. And those will lead to the big changes that we wish to see down the road.
But that's if you're working in the direction of where you want to go, right?
100%.
Right. Okay. Go ahead.
100%. Yeah. And that speaks to one of the other ones, is that purpose is such a catalyzer for hope, right? And that's the direction, right? Is
Right.
if you have a purpose that's greater than yourself, beyond just you, that gives you unending hope. Because look, there's things that you can have an impact that matter. And by living attached and aligned to that purpose, we know we're going in the right direction. And whether or not, if it follows the direct path we think it will, but as long as we're aiming at that purpose that's beyond us, that gives us immense hope to keep pushing on, even when we don't feel like it, because it's bigger than just us and our feelings.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Listen, well, that's, I like that. I never not have hope, speaking personally, because, you know, I have bought the Kool-Aid about building, right? That you got to build it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One of my famous sayings, if you build it, they will come. So not even if, you don't think that they'll come, but I listen to enough motivational speeches and books or whatever, to know that if you keep working at it, you will get to some form of success. You might not be Oprah Winfrey or, you know, Steve Jobs, but you'll get somewhere. You'll get there. So I
Yeah.
love that. That's a great catalyst for hope. I'm going to repeat it because it's so good. You know, process. We're in process. We're a work in progress, and progress or process. And taking baby steps, or big steps, or you can always say you got to crawl before you walk and you got to walk before you run, those different things. And then being in purpose. Purpose is a big word. And a lot of people don't know their purpose, right? Um, they know their purpose. And one of the things I teach is that whenever you're going away from your purpose, you don't feel great. When you feel exhilaration, when you feel happy, when you feel joy, you're going in that direction. And that is one of the ways that you can, be self-aware of whether you're going in that path. So even if you haven't decided on what you think God's purpose is for your life, um, you can still be working towards some kind of goal, right? And you just want to be better than you are today. You want to maybe leave some have some generational increase for your kids, or whatever you want to do. But yeah, purpose, progress, process. Love it.
Yep. Yep. It's great, and I think just the one, there's two quotes that you made me think of there. One that I love talking about is that it's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than to think your way into a new way of acting. And
Nice.
and what that's saying, Millard Fuller, I think, said that. And really it's just saying that, look, if you don't know your purpose, start making actions to figure it out. So start picking a direction and just start moving towards it, and you'll figure out if this aligns or if it doesn't align. And then you
Right.
can pick a new
Yes.
direction. And
Yes.
we don't
Yeah.
necessarily think our way into purpose. We usually act our way into
Yes.
purpose.
That's a good one. It's a good one. Not sure if I heard that one before, but that's good. I will definitely quote you on that.
And the other one that really speaks to the hope side that we've been talking about is from Daniel Taylor. And he said, few things are as encouraging as a realization that things can be different and that we have a role in making them so.
Wow,
And man, that is the ultimate encouragement and
that
hope, right?
is
And
nice.
especially today when we see more than ever, and largely due to technology and social media, we see more than ever the problems that have always existed in our world. These problems have always been there. We're just more now than ever before. And now that we are, what are we going to do? Well, we each individually have a role in playing a part, and we get to be a part of that by living on purpose, living on identity, like we've talked about, and really
Living
taking the time.
intentionally.
Yep,
Yep, yep, yep.
100%.
Right, right, right. I like that. And just to circle back on that, the part that I picked up on is that we do play a role. You don't give your power away to anyone else. You are the captain of your ship, since we have the quotes here.
Yeah.
You're the captain of your ship. So don't give it away to your boss. Don't give it away to your spouse. Don't give it away to anyone else. Yeah, you can step up and do what it is that you need to do to build your hope, right? So that's great. Awesome. Great conversation. I love the nuggets that you're giving our audience today. So as we wrap up, I want to talk to you about your online courses. You mentioned to me that you have two of them. One is growing self-awareness, and we talked about that, which is great. You know, another word for self-awareness is consciousness. And I thought I heard something the other day. I think it's one of those books, probably even Living Like a Monk, that he mentioned that consciousness is the biggest. I mean, it's a word that everybody throws around and nobody knows what it is, but self-awareness and consciousness is like that hope. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That if you practice it and you live in it, then you will it's the biggest thing that you can do in your life. And then the other one is developing discipline. And of course, as a professional golfer, discipline is big. So tell us about, when somebody, orders one of, either one of these courses, what do they get? And then you can finish up by telling us how our listeners can find you online and how they can connect with you.
Thanks, Miriam. Yeah, the two courses I've been working on since the end of last year, so it's been a pretty long process, but they really are two of the most fundamental components of being a good leader. And being a good leader starts always with self-leadership. You have to be able to lead yourself well before you can lead others well. And I'm all about growing self-leadership for myself and for others. And so these two courses, I believe, are going to help with that, with self-awareness and discipline being fundamental aspects of that. And the two courses, what people can expect is they're both 8-week courses. And so it's self-directed, meaning if you want to go faster or slower, you can. I recommend 8 weeks, and that's how it's set up because it gives us enough time to really put these things into practice and then start shifting our identity and the way we see ourselves with these things. So we can start saying, I'm not just pursuing discipline. I am a disciplined person. And that's that's the shift that we want to make in those 8 weeks. And really they provide, both of the courses provide a process for how we grow in it, and then tools for growing in it better. And it'll be a lesson that's pretty short, along with a quiz and some journaling questions, and then additional exercises to put each lesson into practice in our lives as we work through what it means to be a disciplined person and to live with discipline. And same with what it means to grow in self-awareness and to have that be a practice of our lives and a pursuit of our lives, and why both of those matter. So I'm really excited. They're both available, like I said, November 15th. They're both, the original price is $150 for each course. There's a discount though for people that listen on podcasts or on radio shows. And if you type in podcast, they'll get you $50 off either course. And they are, you can take one or both, and they're not necessarily meant to go together, but they are great complements. It's kind of a choose your own adventure. So whatever people need is really what is best. And
So
to
you're
find out,
saying if somebody is looking at both of them, they probably pick the one to start with that they can most identify with, and then maybe go to the next one. Is that how you're thinking?
that's great. I love that path. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So you can find all those at thanemarcus.com. If you want to go to the courses, the homepage themselves, you can go courses.thanemarcus.com. And that'll be where you can find those. But as always, anyone that tunes in and hears this conversation, I love hearing feedback or connecting in general. So definitely go to the website and you can find a way to reach out there.
Okay. So that's awesome. All right. So an 8-week self-leadership. Right. So yeah, a lot of people, when they hear leadership, they're thinking of maybe they have to be a CEO of a company or whatever. So I like where you talk about that you have to be able to lead yourself first before you can lead others, right? And self-leadership is a mom, is it's anybody, because you've got to lead yourself to be able to do the hard things, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to the gym, add reading or growth or anything that you need to do that's hard, then you need self-leadership to do it. So I'm glad you made that, that differentiation, and not just leadership, but self-leadership. And then when you can lead self, then you can lead others as well. So that's great. So, listeners to the show know that they can find a transcript of my conversation with Thane on the show page, which is blog.myhelps.us. And I would also have links to Thane's, his courses and his website. And also, I will make note of the $50 off with the podcast. So you might even pick up some from, just, Google browsing search. I'll put that on the website. All right. So listen, as we wrap up, just want to thank you guys all for tuning in to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life Radio Hour. We talked today on intentional living. We talked today about living with intention and attention. We touched about, maybe when there's tension that, sometimes it's not always good to be on the right and to be the left, but try to be in the middle. It reminded me of my debating years, even though when I watched the debate, it was nothing like my debating years.
Yes.
Because when I used to do debating in school, I mean, like, you're right, you argue both sides, you know what I mean? So yeah, you being able to see the other person's point of view and, be in the middle. I like that. We also touched a little bit on minimalists, and one of the ways that you can live intentionally is to maybe get rid of all that stuff, all that clutter, all the things that you don't need. That where we talked about purpose, and if you're moving in the direction of purpose, maybe you can get rid of all the stuff that that is not necessary. So again, we're recording on YouTube now. So I would love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, would love for you to also, not only subscribe, but rate and review the show on iTunes. Remember also to support the sponsors that support the show. And finally, I do have a life coaching group on private group on Facebook, which is being grown by leaps and bounds. So if there's any coaches or there's anybody that's interested in personal growth, or you just want to be inspired, then feel free to join. And Thane, thank you so much for
Thanks,
being a
Myrna.
repeat guest. Thank you so much for spreading what you do. Anybody that serves, anybody that tries to make lives better for people. It's great with your podcast, what you're doing. So I want to wish you much success and your courses and your books and your podcast, and continue inspiring. So thank you for being on the show.
Thanks so much, Mira. It's fun to have opportunities to talk with other people doing the same work as you. And I appreciate your heart in it as well. And know that we're all on the journey together, and no one is above or below anyone else in that journey. We're all alongside each other.
We're all equal. That's what you said earlier. Yes, they're all equal. So yeah, I mean, I'm yeah, but you've been doing the show a while too. Yeah, I'm in my 5th year, so you're been doing it for 4 years. So that's great. So all right, any last words that you want to say before we wrap up?
I think who was it? I can't remember the guy who said it, but he said no limit for better, and I think that's a great way to end it. There's no limit for better. We can always keep improving and growing, and ultimately, I believe that if we each individually take ownership and never settle, then we all can be a part of the solution and the change that we wish to see, as Daniel Taylor said. So here's to taking ownership and never settling.
Yes, and I'm going to end with here's to the process.
I
like that. All right, well, listen, thank you guys all for tuning in. Until next time, namaste.